I'm Kathy Dyer. I represent myself. I represent our son, Graham, and we're for the bill. I'm for the bill. Well, my husband told you our story. Pretty much, it's a hard story to tell. I'm a retired civil engineer. I worked for the state of Texas for 25 years, 25 and a half years before I retired. So I'm the detail one of the family. So I'm playing in my head what he's told you, and I want to correct him on a couple of things. Well, first of all, he's right. We did not want to go, as was, I received a message on my phone before we had a funeral, and the funeral was within a week, inviting us to come sit down with the Mesquite police and view all the stuff they had. Of course, we weren't any bit interested in doing that, especially with the interaction we'd already had with them, which was, he's told you about that. But shortly thereafter, shortly after the funeral, and we had so many questions of what had happened, we did go to an attorney. We went to an attorney just so that they could handle it for us. Just get whatever there is. You look at it and just tell us, what happened to our son. That's all we really want to know. That local attorney in Paris, we're from Paris, Texas, made the request, and in 6 weeks, 2 months, I don't know, called us back to come in and said, we didn't get anything. We didn't get anything from them. What do you mean you didn't get anything? Well, they don't have to give you the information, and they're not going to. He said, that the way that really it works in the real world is, he had done this because Paris is a small town. He's a friend of the family, and he requested the information. He said, really? Attorneys do this when they file suit. That's how you get the information. Okay, find us another attorney then, and then we'll get the information that way, if that's what it takes. He did find us another attorney, and she asked for the information, called us in, and said, you're not getting any information from the Mesquite police. He said, well, why not? Why can't we? We're parents. Don't we have a right to know what happened to our son? There are videos. She said, yes, there are videos. We're taxpayers. We listen to all this about taxpayers and not getting, the services that you're paying for. We pay for those videos, and now they're telling us we can't see what happened to our son when he died. So she said, well, yeah, there's a law, and it's kind of a catch-22. I could file a lawsuit, and then you can get these through discovery, but only if your case doesn't get thrown out. But because you can't really tell me what happened, I can assure you your case will be thrown out. And she was right. She filed a suit for us, and it was thrown out. In the meantime, I had done research online, and we did ask the FBI to investigate, and they did investigate, and eventually dawned on us to ask them, through the Freedom of Information Act, the Federal Freedom of Information Act, if we could have their records. And they eventually did give us those records. It was actually more than 2 years past when we started receiving information. Our attorney, the second attorney, had already filed a lawsuit, and so with the information we got, she amended that suit, and we're in the middle of a lawsuit still on that. But that's not the point. The point is the Public Information Act, the Texas Public Information Act, prevented us from getting the information that we wanted to, that we surely should be entitled to. And I finally got this copy of a letter. It's not to us, it's to Assistant City Attorney, City of Mesquite. And just to clarify what's up here, the City of Mesquite asked for a ruling from Attorney General of Texas, Attorney General's office, as to whether they had to release this information. They did it. They made the request 4 to 6 weeks after our son's death. The Attorney General's office says this, Section 552-108A2, and I'm just going to skip through and or not paraphrase, but just excerpts. Accepts from disclosure information that deals with an investigation that did not result in conviction or deferred adjudication. Based on your representation and our review, we find that the department, that's the Mesquite Police Department, has demonstrated the information at issue relates to a criminal case that has concluded in a final result other than conviction or deferred adjudication. Yes, it had. Our son was not convicted. He was killed. He died. And this is, this is what they say. Well, there was no conviction, no deferred adjudication. So, therefore, with the exception of basic information, the department may withhold the information at issue. Sincerely, Paige Lay, Assistant Attorney General. In the words of Speaker Elkin, who heard this, our testimony 2 years ago, I'm speechless. I think, I hope there was an unintended consequence of the law, that this would, information would be kept from families this way. But I do think there'll be opposition from law enforcement. I'm not surprised that there'd be strong opposition from law enforcement. However, it's got to be the right thing to do, to open these records up when someone dies in custody and let the families know what has happened to their loved ones.
Chairman Raymond.
Thank you for being here and for your patience, and there are not words that we could offer to console you, really. I have children, and the idea of the loss of a child is it's just terrible, and you've experienced it. But I want to thank you for being here, because I think where we are, and being in law enforcement's a tough job. They got to deal with a lot of tough situations. And your husband referenced that your son apparently may have taken drugs, and drugs are the worst thing about America, really.
I agree.
But I think that as we continue to try to make situations like this better, try to address what you've been through, I want you to know that I believe, because of what you're doing, you will save lives. People you will never meet or maybe even know of, but you will save lives in the future. We'll make the system better. Law enforcement will know in those hyped up situations they find themselves in where they're trying to deal with someone. They know that it's going to be looked at, and you'll have less outcomes like the one you all experienced. And the police officers will be better off for it. And other families will not have to go through what you've gone through. And when they do, they will have access to that information. And again, it'll continue, I believe, to make the system better. And fewer less loss of life, unnecessary loss of life. So I just want to tell you, as hard as this is, I just thank you, because you're going to save lives. And you're going to prevent other parents from having to go through what you've gone through. So thank you for your patience and being here, and thank you to Speaker Moody down there for working on this, and we got to get this done.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Desato.
Yes, ma'am. I echo what Richard had to say, but you said something that just caught my attention. Maybe I missed it earlier. You said 2 years ago. Was this bill filed before? Were you here testifying on this bill before?
Yes. Representative Moody filed a bill late last session.
Mm-hmm.
It was heard in the, I think it was a special committee on public information, transparency,
Okay.
and we testified at that hearing.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Guerra. I'm sorry, ma'am. One more question.
Yes, ma'am. Again, my heart goes out to you and your husband and your family.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you did file a lawsuit. I assume that was a federal lawsuit, a 1983 cause of action? Is that what it was? In federal court?
Yes, federal court. Yes.
And the federal judge threw the case out?
I'm sorry?
The federal judge threw the case out?
Initially, yes, for lack of detail. You have to be very specific in naming, wrong acts, and we didn't have that information. We got the information after the suit was filed, and were able to file an amended complaint.
Yes, ma'am. I was just, so the judge did not hold his ruling in abeyance, or he didn't hold off in his ruling until after you were able to get the information, is basically what you're telling me. I hate to belabor that. I'll talk to Speaker Moody about it here in a minute.
I'd be glad to
As a
give you-
lawyer, I don't understand.
I don't understand any of it.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. The procedure is just horrible.
Yeah. And most of the time, these type of matters are, when it becomes excessive force cases, they end up in federal court under Section 1983 of the federal statutes. So I'll talk to Speaker Moody about that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you. I'd also like to add that in that reminded me, when we did testify at the last session, the committee voted this bill out unanimously in session at the hearing.
Thank you.